I will introduce Dr. Katelyn Means, who is a passionate mental wealth advocate and the founder of the Euphoria Effect. And Dr. Means combines transformational techniques in neuroscience, somatic therapy, and mindfulness to guide people in shifting from survival patterns to empowered states of thriving. So thank you, Katelyn, for being here with us. We really, really appreciate your time and energy. And so let's start by getting personal. Dr. Katelyn, can you share with us about your journey and how you became a mental wealth advocate?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's an honor to be here. Mental health is a something that is near and dear to my heart, my personal journey. And so anytime I can share information, support organizations like ShareWell that are really taking a stand for mental health, I'm there. So yeah, my personal journey is mostly what has influenced why I do what I do and why I am so passionate about mental health or mental wealth. Um, I would say from a very young age, I just didn't I was always anxious or depressed. And most of my life, I would swing from one or the other. And I just I never understood why. And then when I was 12, I lost my dad from cancer. He died in 4 days from when we got the diagnosis to when he actually passed. So at 12, that was really like the catalyst for me of um, figuring out what the heck how do I be okay? How do I not just exist every day? How do I, how do I live truly? And so it's been a true trial and error, soaring and falling journey over the past couple decades in this space. And the big thing that you touched on is loneliness, and I think that that's one of the most dangerous experiences that we have in today's world. And so um, I say there's three things that combat loneliness, and that's one, connection to ourselves. Right? I think all of us have had the experience when we're at a party or at an event and there's hundreds of people in the room, but we feel alone. And I had that experience a lot during my life. And it wasn't until I really did the deep inner healing work to connect and reconnect with myself that I realized that I wasn't actually lonely. I was lonely because I was leaving myself. Um, and then the second piece of that is connection to others, right? So I can't connect to others if I'm not connected to myself. And then the third piece of that would be connection to something greater, God, source, spirit, universe, whatever. So there's something greater out there. And that has really shown to be kind of like the trifecta that's really helped a lot of people feel less lonely.
I love that. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Katelyn. And for anyone who is feeling lonely and is new to ShareWell, let's have our moderator drop on. We have a special link for you. If you want to join some of our support groups, go check that out. Yeah, our mission is we want to end the loneliness epidemic, and we're doing that through digital support. And Dr. Katelyn, that's why we're so aligned. And I would love to know more about what you're doing with the Euphoria Effect and how, yeah, you're spreading your magic to the world.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so the Euphoria Effect is a coaching curriculum that we take people through that starts at it's a 6 month journey essentially, and it's really a product of combining several different modalities. And as I've mentioned, I was kind of my own guinea pig before I started the Euphoria Effect. I spent probably 15 years in traditional CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And, I moved around a lot in the last decade. And every time I would move to a new city, I would be like, okay, I need to find my hairdresser. I need to find my gym, my yoga studio, and my therapist. So I always added therapy and mental health to that list. And what I've noticed or what I found was, and this is my experience and my personal experience, but also my experience in helping other people, is that we can only talk our way to a certain point, right? Like, so I talk about it as like the cappuccino, and the foam is talking about our feelings, how we feel, what happened, what we don't like, where we feel stuck, how we're, feeling hurt or abandoned by people in our lives. And then the like actual like rich coffee of the cappuccino is the work that we do in the Euphoria Effect. And that is a combination of neuroscience, so helping people access their subconscious mind, which is the storehouse for all of, it's literally like the switchboard for why we do what we do: behaviors, patterns, people that we seek out, relationships that we have, areas that we feel stuck in our life, our limiting self beliefs. Even though we might not want our life to look a certain way, our subconscious mind is why it looks that way. And about 95% of our decision making, our behaviors, our patterns are subconscious. And so if we're only addressing the conscious mind, which is our thoughts and our talking, we're really truly missing the meat and the potatoes. I'm a Wyoming gal, so the meat and the potatoes of healing. And so in the Euphoria Effect, we combine neuroscience, somatic based or subconscious rewiring of the brain, which is what I just touched on. And then we also combine nervous system regulation and somatic based experiencing techniques, which is where how we feel is stored. Right. And
Mm.
so I can't think my way into feeling better. Yes, there are positive mindset shifts. Yes, there are repetitive thought loops or patterns that I can be aware of and stop myself from engaging in that do influence how I feel. And ultimately, how we feel is stored in our nervous system and in our somatic. Soma is the Latin word for body. So,
Mm.
soma means body. And so, anything that has happened in our life, any sort of trauma, whether it be the capital T traumas that we historically think about, or the more subtle traumas, like being the last one to get picked for kickball on the playground, or getting rejected in high school, or being called fat by a kid on the playground. Like, it doesn't matter. Those are all traumas that we carry. But that's really what influences our experience of life. So we can't talk our way into feeling better. We have to feel our way into feeling better. And that is through, in my experience, both professionally, personally, and in helping so many people through the Euphoria Effect, that is through the nervous system and the somatic body.
Mm. I love that. Thank you, Dr. Katelyn. I love
Yeah.
that. We do have to feel better. Let's dive deeper into it. So I know we're going to get into somatic healing, some of the neuroscience. Let's start with somatic healing first.
Yeah.
Like if you were, say, people are new to somatic healing in the audience, they've never heard of it, they want to try it out. What would you share with someone who's a novice and like where to even start with somatic healing?
Totally. So first, I mean, everyone is unique, and that's also what I love, is there's no one size fits all, in terms of the healing journey, the self growth journey, the discovering who you really are journey. But the first piece I find a lot in people is a lot of people don't actually feel safe in their body. So I can guide someone into their body all they want, but if they're not feeling a true sense of safety, not just like my doors are locked at night, or, having the luxury of living in a place that is physically safe. When I speak of safety, we're talking about psychological safety, emotional safety, safety of the nervous system. So if someone's not feeling safe, they're not going to actually be able to or necessarily want to access their body. And so, or be in their body, right? So dissociation, or being outside of body, or being in the mind, I find this in a lot of people who are brilliant. um, it's no, we're in the Bay Area, we have so many brilliant people, in this area, that it's really safe for people to be in their mind. It's a place
Mm.
that's familiar, it makes sense, I can kind of like gnaw on it and chew on it, and it's safe, right? But it's really, um, so to answer your question, it's first, okay, how does this person in front of me feel safe? How do I feel safe? How does Amy feel safe? How does Natalie feel safe? And that's going to be different for everyone. So some people find a sense of safety through um, like doing a scan of the environment of like, okay, I'm in my home right now. The walls are not going to collapse on me. Hopefully, the ground that I'm sitting on is not going anywhere. My breath, focusing on my breath, I'm breathing, my heart keeps beating no matter what happens to me. So orienting for safety in the environment is a great way to do that. You can also do that through 5 senses. So focusing on sight, touch, taste, sound, and smell. So first piece would be safety. How do I feel safe? What does that look like for me? And how can I feel a felt sense of safety? And for some people, it actually might be the opposite, the counter to that, which is, okay, wow, acknowledging how unsafe I actually feel and letting that just be validated, and then feeling it in the presence of either ideally someone else, so it doesn't re-traumatize the nervous system. But so acknowledging safety or lack thereof is number one. And then number two, just a quick tip, is a body scan, right? So every morning before I even get out of bed, I'll typically do a couple body scans to just drop me into my body, right? Which soma is body. So it's dropping from the mind and then going into the body. And so there's two things that I find. One is that when people do a body scan, they're typically visualizing it. So they're seeing it, but they're not actually feeling it. And so if everyone right now can do this, I want you to just take out your hand. And so as I'm speaking, as you're hearing my voice, I want you to just look at your hand. And so just notice the texture, the color, the lines. Maybe you're wearing some rings, maybe you have some sweet nail polish on. But just kind of, and you can look at the front and the back of your hand, and just with your visual field, like really taking in the hand. And then whenever you're ready, just take a moment and close your eyes. And so your hand is still there. And as your eyes are closed, I want you to imagine your hand that's right in front of you. And then next step is I want you to switch from visualizing or imagining your hand to noticing what it would actually be like to be inside of your hand. So being in the bones, the flesh, the tissue, like the inner workings, the muscles, like inside the hand. And for some people that might be pretty automatic. For others, it might take a little bit of time exploring this, but wherever you are is perfect. But yeah, really feeling the inner workings, inner part of being living inside of your hand. And so you can open your eyes and relax the exercise now, but that's just an example of, it's also kind of like looking at the sun. I can look at the sun, but it's different to feel the sun's warmth beating on my body. Mm-hmm. So those would be a couple easy to access things to practice for people. And then, yeah, just noticing, last thing I'll say here is whenever there's emotion, anxiety, depression, anything that's coming up, is to check in, like, okay, am I racing? Are my thoughts going? What's the quality and quantity of my thoughts? Oh, wow, I'm running on a hamster wheel in my mind. Okay, let me drop into my body. How's my body feeling? And you can start doing that by a body scan, and then doing the inside the body thing we just practiced. But you might notice, wow, my belly is in a knot. My heart is tight. My throat feels like I can't swallow. Like, you'll start to notice these different sensations that when we're in our mind, we can't really have access to. So it really starts with, one, being aware, and then two, just repetition. It's like going to the gym. The more you do it, the stronger you get.
Yeah, I really felt it. I mean, I felt my heart rate like go down, my anxiety level, my shoulders even loosen a bit. That's a very cool practice. Thank you for showing us that.
Yeah.
And for me, I do some practices to like regulate my nervous system, and I feel like that practice did some of that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, are there, yeah, what is your beliefs and view on like the some things to do to regulate your nervous system and how that plays in with our trauma responses and the work that you do?
Yeah, I like could eat these questions up all day. Like I thank you. Yeah. So first of all, the word nervous system, like in the personal development, healing space has gotten a lot of spotlight, and it's for good reason. And so I want to just say that our nervous system is essentially like what controls our life. And so the nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic components of it are, and I'll get into what those mean in a minute, but is directly linked to our cranial nerve 10, which is our vagus nerve. So it's literally a nerve that runs from our brain, and it innervates or it connects to every single organ in our body. Every single organ is innervated by the nervous system. And so what that means is that if I'm in a state of parasympathetic, which is the rest, digest, feel good, like that post yoga meditation buzz, having a really good conversation or connection with a good friend, being in nature, hugging my dog, whatever it is, that's like that state where we're actually designed to live. The sympathetic
Mhm.
state is and this might be review for some people, but is the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, the 4 Fs. And that's where in textbooks it's commonly described as like running from a tiger. So it's our survival mode that is from our cranial nerve 10 or vagus nerve that's telling us like, hey, we're not safe. Something needs to happen. We need to do something. Digestion slows. Your pupils even begin to dilate, so you can see more threats easily. Our body is in these response modes that is correlated to survival. And when I'm in a state of survival or that sympathetic fawn, flight, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, what are the quality of my connections? How present am I with the people that I'm with? Am I feeling um, like a sense of well-being? And most oftentimes the answer is no, right? So an example of fawn would be people pleasing. When I say yes, but I mean no. And then my best friend resentment follows, right? Or so fawn flight is like sometimes I'll literally see people like they just have to leave. They like something, conflict arises or a situation gets too intense and they literally are like, I can't do this, I have to leave. Fight is usually more of a anger or like kind of an intensity outward expression of emotion comes online. And then freeze is, in my experience, more subtle. It's a little bit more not as noticeable, especially in women. um, we can, yeah, just tend to, again, it happens in men and women, all humans, but the freeze can be, we literally just like get quiet or we kind of like shut down, but it can be a way of protecting ourselves or kind of subtly creating a barrier from what we're perceiving to be as a threat. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah, yeah, you did. That was wonderful. And you were really clear about how someone can kind of recognize those signs that they're operating from a survival pattern with the 4 Fs.
mm-hmm.
My follow-up to that would be if someone recognizes the signs, they know they're in the survival pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have any other kind of go-to tips to help them jump out of that?
Yeah, many. So I would say the first is what you said, is awareness of like, oh wow, I am in a flighty response. I am in a like just awareness of, oh, there's a state change. I'm not actually in well-being. I'm not feeling present. I'm feeling, even just naming how you're feeling. I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling depressed. Whatever it is, like step one is awareness, which is why I'm such an advocate for meditation practice. Is if we're able to be aware of ourselves and to be a witness to our experience, we can then act from that place. But if I'm not even aware, if I don't even know that my nervous system is responding in a way that is not conducive to how I really want to feel, right? Because I would say most people, they really just want to feel safe, loved, seen, heard, accepted, validated, acknowledged. And so first is awareness. And then the second piece is some less, or some common signs. So I named the 4 F's, but then some common signs would be um, digestion is a lot of people with chronic gut health issues, or even if just digestion is off or if the stomach is hurting, that's a common example of nervous system dysregulation. Not being able to be fully present or engaging in a conversation. So if you're noticing you're kind of like going out and you're not really feeling here connected, that's a common sign. People pleasing, like I said. So those are some less, some more obvious, I guess, examples.
Mm.
And then specific practices or tools, which is, I know what you asked. So my favorite way is doing a 4 to 8 breath. So inhaling for a count of 4 and then exhaling for a count of 8. So the exhale cues to the nervous system that there is a, like, we're good here, we're okay. That so that the double the length of the exhale is what helps that. If I'm running from a tiger, so to speak, I don't have time. It's a luxury to have an 8-second count exhale. So 4 to 8 count breath is my go-to. Even just checking in and noticing, like, how is my breathing? Am I shallow breathing? Am I able to take a full deep breath? If the answer is no, no judgment, no shame, no shade, take a deep breath, 4 to 8 count. Second would be, sometimes it might be removing yourself from the situation that is triggering or putting you in a state of being flooded or in a state of survival. So that might mean, if you're at a party or an event, excusing yourself, going to the bathroom, taking a step outside, and just removing yourself from the stimulus that is creating whatever it is how you're feeling. And that would be a good time to do the 4-8 breath. Another one is toning, or is what we call it, but it's also humming. So it might be singing, um, literally humming, or making any sort of sound from the throat. In the car is my favorite time to do this. On my way to the gym, on my way to an event, singing in the shower, singing at a concert. There's a reason why people feel so good after these things. It's because they're actually regulated from the nervous system. Another way, like I said, would be a body scan, shaking, tapping. Emotional freedom tapping is another technique I use, but this one's kind of a nice one because it's less subtle, or sorry, it's less obvious. It's more subtle. You can just kind of be tapping and nobody has to know. Like, you can just be sitting there tapping, like on a Zoom meeting, in the car, at a stoplight. Yeah, so shaking, toning, body scan, tapping, removing yourself from the situation, and then resource connection with people that are safe, whether that be friends, family, and or therapist, coach, someone that can really help you regulate your nervous system. Because sometimes we can't actually regulate it when the emotion is so big. That's when co-regulation comes into play. So it's important to know how to regulate our nervous system on our own. And there will be times when, especially when you're healing and doing the inner work, where the emotion of whatever happened it's like lodged in the nervous system. In order for it to move or to de-thaw, it needs to have the presence and the attunement of someone else so that it can meaning to co-regulate and move, so that you're not continuing to loop.
I love that co-regulation, and
And
we
I
all
will say
need to
one other,
ask for help. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
sorry. I will say one other thing is, there also is like this thing where when people learn about co-regulation, they're like, this is the best thing ever. I just want to co-regulate all the time. And then they use that as like an excuse almost to abandon learning how to self-regulate, which is why cuddling feels amazing, right? Like, but it's the both and. Like, hey, I'm going to learn how to regulate my own nervous system And I can also lean on people to help me co-regulate.
Mhm. I love that. And with that, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Katelyn. This has been a really powerful session, and I love that you brought up, media consumption because I actually love your Instagram. And so I popped in the chat for everyone. Follow Katelyn on Instagram. Also, I put her website in there too, so you can stay connected, look at her other offerings. But yeah, thank you so much for coming today and really inspiring us. There was so much value from your wisdom, and just really, really appreciate the gifts that you're bringing, not just to the ShareWell community, but also the world. And if anyone wants to join our next talk, it's all about conscious leadership. You can access it on our site. So whether you're leading a team, whether you're leading a family, whether you're leading your community, it's going to be a really rich talk. And I'm sorry for anyone that we didn't get to your question today. There were a lot of them, but we hope to have Dr. Katelyn Means back very soon. And thank you all. Hope to
Thanks,
see you soon.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you so
Katelyn.
much.